pitchforks.
Oh, absolutely. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you might be in the world. Here we are. Well, what's happened this week? There's been awards. There's been awards to Dragonfly from an awards that nobody's ever heard of. So well done for them for winning a something. Yeah, there's quite an interesting company that they've been around a very long time, but basically as long as SES News has, and they haven't really set the world on fire, which is quite amazing. And one wonders how they survive. Really, Canadian company. And what else have we seen this week? I've been put off by project trying to get ready to publish something from Nokia. It seems amazing that I thought Nokia was an Indian company now, based on the fact that I've got a Nokia phone and it's one of the cheapest Android phones money can buy. So I didn't think there were anything to do with anything anymore.
Is it
but
finished?
anyway,
is it
no,
finished?
I think it's finished. I think the rights are bought out.
Did Microsoft buy them? Didn't Microsoft throw some money at them or something else? I don't know, maybe it was something else.
Maybe
I don't know.
I'm a Microsoft person now. Who knows? Anthony Donovans and NQIS Steve, hello there. We're waiting on Ian. Why is Ian so tardy? He's probably working again.
He's always late to his own streams. Why do you think he'd be on time for this one?
Yeah, that's true. And really, the only thing I wanted to mention was EASA and a drone for Christmas, and the very simple requirements. If should you be getting a drone for this Christmas, and let's say you're a youngster or you have a youngster and you want to give a drone to them for Christmas, it's just a few simple things for you to comply and be within the law. It's just such nonsense, isn't it? Every regulator will be coming out with this sort of thing now, and the requirements. If it doesn't put you off, then I don't know what would. I really don't.
That's the same the world over. It's crazy. I think the remote ID spoofing, the ghost generator, is going to be a really big thing. That's just going to completely negate that remote ID thing. So many people have contacted me saying, how can we do it? We want to do it. Do it. So yes, I'm going to work full steam ahead on it. Might even make some little ESP32 devices that you can simply put on your drone, remote ID transmitter, but it's not transmitting your remote ID. It's transmitting hundreds of spoof remote IDs, because I couldn't find anything in the rules that says you're not allowed to do that, either in the FCC rules or the FAA rules. There's nothing against it. It's an ISM band. You can broadcast what the hell you like, as long as you're using compliant equipment and not deliberately interfering with a legitimate signal. Broadcasting additional packets isn't interfering with the original signal.
They must have put that in the small print somewhere.
No, I couldn't find a copy of it. Couldn't find any reference to that. You can do what the hell you like, because it's not a signed transmission either. You can spoof whatever you want.
Come on, Gary. You've been at this long enough to know that usually this regulation's got more holes in it than a wheel of Swiss cheese. And you know what?
Well, yes, but that's a kind of a day one obvious thing to make sure nobody does that, isn't it?
Yeah, but look how obvious the other things were with the whole CBO thing. CBOs, you can choose your CBO, and if the regulations of the CBO are so specific, like FPV Freedom Coalition only focusing on FPV, and you want to fly great big large scale models, you can choose their CBO rules. They didn't think of that, so now all the CBOs will have to have a comprehensive rule set to cover all disciplines, even if they're only actually focused on one of them. It's a dog's breakfast, because nobody consults with the people who are going to be affected.
The dog's breakfast. See?
Bruce, Bruce can make a fortune selling this device as well, or app. Or
Another fortune.
I've seen people. There was somebody that had one on a bunch of balloons, and they let it go. And let the shenanigans ensue is what's going to happen. And again, all of this stuff, the regulation, everybody, more and more people are calling me. I've been, the daily curmudgeon. I should have a column. And I put this stuff out on LinkedIn, and people are like, oh, what's going on here? How come this didn't work? What's the problem with this? Because it's all somebody with a cell phone app or an existing product that they just want to shoehorn into a solution. And so it's not thought out. It's like, well, we've got this. Nobody even asks if it works. Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we'll use that. Sounds good. You should get a patent on that while you're in this committee. Get the patent. You want to make sure you can make a little money on the back end on this deal. I want you going away broke. So, that's how come it's so bad in my estimation. It's just all for profit and nobody really cares. I don't think that the RID is going to cure the issues. The thing that would have cured the issue.
But it's going to open the skies. BV loss for everybody. It's the future's
Oh, yeah,
here.
I want
It's
to talk
arrived.
about that too. I want to talk
It's
about that.
arrived.
So,
The future's arrived.
we've got one company that has a drone in the box. And, okay, so you got drone in the box and, we've seen this before where you can use our waiver. Why don't you lease our waiver? It's safe. You got the box. You can fly around. The NASA is going to be solid. We're going to help you get the waiver. So what I've seen from all of these groups of people and businesses helping people get waivers is they're not aviation people, or even if they are aviation people, they don't understand all the FARs. So they don't get all of the waivers that you need. And then eventually your competition's going to drop the dime on you and the FAA is going to shut you down. And if you don't go with someone who's an attorney that's got malpractice insurance, you have no recourse. You just got to pay. So that's happening. The other one, I don't know if you saw the Google Wing. Was Google Wing the one that started the fire? I don't want to malign anyone. You remember who started the forest fire?
They had the hang up in the power wires. They might have started a fire. They've certainly scared birds. They've done lots of stuff.
It might have been Amazon that started the fire, wasn't it? In a grassy field in the middle of nowhere with their testing.
Was it Amazon?
I think it might have been Amazon. Possibly.
All right. Well, one of them. But the thing is here's how the new deals work in the United States. So, a few people have waivers. The big companies, let's say you got waivers, you're out there flying around, it's totally safe. And basically people are just telling the FAA, go after me. If they're working for a big enough company that's got enough, let's say, political horsepower where they have lobbyists and attorneys and whatever, they're telling them, just come after me. Go for it. And the FAA said, oh, well, we know you're safe. I remember I got that. Remember that, Gary, when they tried to call off the attack dog at the FAA and they told me I could do whatever I wanted. I could fly wherever I wanted and at night over 400 feet, whatever, because they knew that I was safe, which was, boy, was that.
That was foolish.
That was a.
And when rules are selectively enforced, they're bad rules.
Exactly. Well, that's why they're bad.
Yeah, I know.
So
It's
it just goes to show that mom and pop, like, you want to start your drone business, and I'm going to do drone deliveries for Dave's Pharmacy, and we're going to help the neighborhood. You're pipe dreaming. That's not going to happen. Exactly. I think we've all sat around and said this for the last decade or two, that basically what's going to happen is the rules are going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And the only people that'll be able to turn a big fortune into a small fortune are people with fortunes and drones. And that's going to be it. Before anybody else jumps on here, I want to give everyone an award from the Self-Adulation Society. Y'all came in first place this year.
Yeah. It's a nonsense. It's all a nonsense. Now, I thought. Now, you mentioned Skydio and Dovran's. Sorry, I was going to say fair play to them to getting that number on their machine, RQ28A, because that's almost like ka-ching, license to print money. As soon as you hear the king RQ, then you're away. So fair play to them. And the box solution does look very impressive. Now, I'm sure most of us were at that launch for that, the virtual thing. Hello there, Carl. Hello, IAP. And I was quite staggered in watching the comments go by, how people didn't realize that the basic goodness of the Skydio platform. Come on, to credit where credit's due. Their camera-based system is pretty impressive, and it is different to what anybody else has. But most of the people commenting didn't seem to have a clue that they'd done that, and they were saying things like, my DJI drone can't do that, and it's like, well, yeah, that's the whole point. And the box. So I thought to me, I just thought, crikey, people have completely missed the point with Skydio. Or am I being too fanboy about their technology?
No, I just think people are so, let's say, locked into the DJI thing, the DJI price point, the DJI capability that they don't even want to look anywhere else. I have also talked to people that, I mean, I don't have a Skydio. I tried to chisel one out of them, but that obviously is gone unanswered. But I guess, there's kind of the Tesla software model. So people buy these Skydios and think they're going to do everything, and they go, well, I gotta get a subscription, man, and then I could just go buy the DJI Air Mavic 3.0, what, and I can do everything with it, which you really can't. But the other thing that we've all noticed, I think, here in this group over the last decade or two or whatever, is that most people are not really in tune with capabilities and the actual specifications and all the rest of that. It's price point, and I go take the selfie, and that's about it. I don't know if you guys would agree or disagree with that, but there's some real holes in that one too, and what people understand things do. And that we could even talk about that in the open source autopilot thing, which there's an open rift. Is anyone else seeing that rift between
which particular one? Which one?
autopilot and
there's rifts everywhere.
There's always a rift, but the one between Market Planner, our Mission Planner, and autopilot. Have we seen that?
No. What's happened then?
Well, I guess there's the, it reminds me of the Monty Python bit, follow the gourd, no, follow the sandal, which one is better and which one's made where and who's writing the code. And, it's all certified, which is just it's just nonsense. It's really not even a thinly veiled fairy tale as far as I'm concerned with the code and the different systems. You've had Philip on, haven't you?
Yeah.
The guy, I wish.
Well, Philip pays the Mission Planner now, so
I wish he could just formulate an opinion. He's too wishy-washy. He doesn't have any opinions.
But real men don't use Mission Planner. They just use a text editor and settle the parameters by hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Tridge does. What is that other one called? I've got it on the desktop here. Mav Proxy. It's in the top left. I'm looking at it. It's just boring telling you this. I'm looking at it. The number of times I've opened it, because I open it, I don't understand it. I close it. I walk away. That's what real men use. Absolutely. Look, I think it's Mission Planner for setting stuff up, your basic flight, and then you use the other one for when you're rolling out and doing day-to-day stuff. Because one thing we know about autopilot is there aren't enough parameters to change.
I gather they're fixing that. There'll be more.
Yeah, there needs to be more. I think it's ridiculous, isn't it? It's over 10,000, I think now. So the possibility of
it's almost like the number of rules and that the regulations have put in,
But okay, so what's the and I've said this for a long time. This before even the FAA policy clarification is people, you're gonna have all the features on this autopilot, and I'm sure you remember this, Gary. I can't even. So many autopilot companies have bitten the dust. I can't even keep them straight anymore. But you remember everybody's like, oh, my autopilot, I'm going to have all this. You'll be able to do this. You're going to have events. You're going to be able to fly to 3,000 waypoints. You're going to do this. It's going to be able to, And you're like, yeah, okay, you can just you're like writing code. Because none of that will be legal for the next 25 years. You won't really be able to use that. And I think that's another. Can we all agree that, besides like say the Best Buy flyer, the DJI drone buyer, that people that are doing this really don't care about the rules? Or is that still?
I firmly believe that there's not a company in the world that makes a profit that isn't already flying BV loss routinely. I don't believe you can make a profit unless you do that.
Even the companies that are flying beyond visual line of sight, like Wing, are losing money. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You can fly the
Yeah, it
airport.
doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't even mean you're going to make money. Yeah, no, for sure. So, but they're definitely doing it, and that's why this list of people, particularly on LinkedIn, that arrive and tell us that BV loss is the future and RID is going to enable it, and this is what's going to make the world different and everything more profitable is rubbish. It's absolute rubbish because people are doing it already. I mean, I may not know people that have flown entire 200-kilometer missions all 50 kilometers away from a ground control station, doing a whopping great big circle, lifting up surveying loads of points. It may have been lots of schools, and it may have been a 200-kilometer radius and loads of jobs on each one on the radius. Mark knows it. Mark's got a believer. Yes, because I've done BV loss 10 years. Yeah, Peppermint. I don't know anyone who doesn't fly BV loss. Exactly. It's just a bloody nonsense to suggest anything otherwise.
I never fly BV loss. I would just like to say that I always fly within
No.
the rule.
No, nor would I. I
think we're all totally against the concept of BV loss here.
Absolutely.
I don't even blink when I'm flying. I have little things to keep my eyes open because for that little moment, I wouldn't want to be in violation of the regulations.
Matchsticks, some FAA approved BV loss matchsticks. Yes, to keep your eyes.
See, I just roll up the business plan, right?
Yes.
Oh, hey, there it is. I can see out to 10 kilometers, no problem.
Well, that's what we used to say in the man world about the visibility for flying. You say, how far can we see the nearest cash point? I mean, that was the saying. So it's
but those BV loss rules in the UK are stupid, aren't they? I can't fly this tiny little choking hazard harmless drone. Couldn't fly it more than probably 20 meters without violating the BV loss rule. But if I had an M300, I could fly it perhaps a kilometre away, and it's far more dangerous.
Well, if you follow Article 16, so Article 16 does allow you to fly racing drones as long as you don't go above a certain height and you're in a sterile area. You can fly as a group with one spotter. So, you can almost kind of do it, but BV loss. Yeah, let's face it. The best thing about BV loss is still all the people pumping their money into UTMs, which again, big fortune becoming a small fortune.
The thing though that with I hate rules where they make these broad-reaching rules and then they give exceptions. Well, if you have to give an exception, why don't you just not regulate that in the first place? Why do you do two tiers? You can have, or you can't do this, but we'll let you do this if. Why don't you just say, well, okay, it's okay to do that. We're not going to stop you in the first place.
Oh, it's CYA, there's no science. I mean, even here, they made FLIR when they bought the Black Hornet. They had to get a beyond visual line of sight waiver to fly that because you lose sight of that in about 10 70 feet.
Yeah.
And I would call that a pretty robust system. Bruce, you're kind of hitting on the problem with these rules and the two-tiered system and some people being able to do it or people just going ahead and doing it. I mean, I read, some of the, let's say, specifications on some of these systems, and anything you can fly out for 5 kilometers or 10 kilometers. I mean, if you were really like the world's largest drone company and all you really cared about was safety, would you really put these types of capabilities in there that would allow people to fly unsafely, especially while you're, interfacing with these civil aviation authorities and, doing the smoke and mirrors routine and talking about how you're so safe and all the rest of that. It's not really the equipment that makes it safe. I think it's the pilots, the uncrewed pilot. That's another one. I don't even. So, crew resource management. Now that everything's uncrewed, do we not have to have those CRM meetings and classes? Because those were boring, man. Sitting around for hours on end talking about that. You did?
I enjoy CRM. Yeah. No. Well, it's because it was the study of why if it's a good course, it's a study of why the human in the loop makes the mistakes, and so I thought it was pretty interesting. The one I don't like is dangerous goods. That's boring. I mean, unless I'm on fire, I don't care.
Well, you know, with all
only
those
time.
candles, you know, we're gonna have to get you like an
Yeah.
asbestos nightshirt.
Yeah.
No, the crew resource management. It's funny that you say that, and it's funny, you know, the human in the loop and errors. So, you know, the best part is trying to set up a shot with a drone that'll fly for 15 minutes, and everybody, I got 15 minutes of flight time, blah blah blah. Get the actors together, get that script going, the sound guy, all the rest of that stuff, all in 15 minutes. Steps get, let's say, overlooked, even with the best of checklists.
Yeah. It's two-tier rules. And in particular, should required to have a PPL. And interesting, I saw a company this week advertising for it's the lot that do the inspections of assets offshore in the UK, very BV loss, and PPL is part of their requirement for their RPS stuff. So I thought that was very interesting. And Bruce is pointing out. Let me put out one here that just one of the abusive things that Bruce has said sends me abuse in the thing. And I did notice this week. I did notice not just this article, but others. So there's definitely the counter UAS people are getting the word out in America, which is quite interesting.
I found it interesting that Kevin from the FAA assured us that the remote ID signal can only be broadcast a couple of kilometres, yet this crowd is setting up a network to correlate all the remote ID transmissions all over the place, just as we predicted would happen.
Yeah,
well, Bruce,
imagine doing that.
But imagine Bruce's widget. So Bruce will create the widget to play with remote ID. He's then going to be able to sell that to Americans, or they'll download it and make it whatever.
Give it away.
Give it away, just to make the FAA really happy. Can you imagine all these spoof signals going off? It's going to be absolutely hilarious.
No, but it's opening up. It's opening up BV loss. Everyone's going to make a fortune. I mean, we can't have this sort of thing. I mean, this is the future, and it begins. Yeah,
I want to see the device where they've said we've made it to fit in airplanes so we can detect drones, because no one's done that yet. You've not seen device.
Everyone's talking. Yeah, everyone's talking conspicuity and relating it to remote ID, which is not conspicuity. The wires across. FAA says, "Oh no, it's not for it." But all the anti-drone people, like that article was saying something about protecting aircraft from drones with this remote ID. Oh, it's all rubbish.
It's just
they've been conflated.
However, in the UK, the new cap says remote ID is kind of dead. It actually talks about it talks about electronic conspicuity instead more, which it says everyone's got to have in 2030-ish.
Well, yeah, you think so, because by then, how old will ADSB be? 40 odd years old, won't it? By then, so it's about time to bring it in.
By 2030, the skies will be clogged with drones. We won't need room for another drone up there. It'll be gridlock.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I forgot about the gridlock. And all the cranes will be in the way, of course.
The cranes. Yes, the cranes. That's quite amazing, isn't it?
The flying cars. The flying car. What about the flying cars?
Well,
there's flying cars as well? Good God.
Got to get the annual drone death toll down somehow. You're exactly right, Cool Cat.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
It'll be a soup of plastic.
It's quite interesting that I've said now, one of the only very few things I've learned by following this sort of technology chain, and I'm sure it applies to all technology subjects, but I haven't been paying attention, is if the acronym changes more than 3 times, whatever the thing is about to die. And the AAM UAM crowd are dead keen on getting rid of AAM and UAM as a term at the moment, because AAM was the first one. I can't remember whichever way. AAM, UAM, etc., etc. They want to change it to RAM is the one they want. Regional air mobility now. The next one, that's it. That's the end of it. Watch, mark my words.
Well, the military was calling them orbs, which were organic
Awesome.
resupply bus. Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
Organic resupply, bullets, beans, and bandages.
I guess. Well, the funny thing, so doing a little bit of research with the UTM for the AAM and that, I've believe it or not, now I just listen in on these calls because that's part of my day job where I'm like, oh, God, that sounds great. Yes, I can see it working. How did I not see this before? Everything, everybody's talking about this 5G network, which I don't know, if you guys have got 5G where you live and how it works. I can't even get a phone call. I can't get I don't get, a voicemail. It could take 12 hours before I get it. It's just to think that they're going to interface with the air traffic control on that in anytime soon. I just don't see it. Other thing that really, you talk about the change of the acronyms, Gary. Okay, what was supposed to happen in September of 2015? I know you remember.
Well, we may have had a countdown for that, but I can't remember which particular one it was.
Well, that was the reauthorization bill said full NASA integration of drones into the NAS in 2015. Yes. So people they're like, oh yeah, we need to, and then we're going to do this, and then we're going to be able to integrate drones into the NAS. And it's like, man, we're already 7 coming up, and we're going to be on 8 years late to the party. What are you talking about?
2047.
Yeah, so I got that right here. I was looking at that the other day. I was thinking, Gary needs the refresher.
It was 2047 or 2049. It was 2047, wasn't it?
Yeah, here it is, right here on the desk.
Oh yeah, in super blurro vision with your that's because it's secret. That's amazing how it blurs out the top secret.
Actually, it's I don't know if you can see it. It is unclassified. I don't need a Mar-a-Lago raid over here at the house.
But what was the year
2009 and 2047, which should be the 100th year of the Air Force.
Dear viewer that doesn't watch this loads of times, when we started SES News in 2008, that was a bit of a joke in 2009 that, that's probably the year it is all going to happen. It's 2047. And blow me down. We're still right on target for that. Right on target.
Yeah, we'll be there any day. I'm waiting for them to change the nomenclature from airman. For the Air Force, that'll probably be next on the list. So it might be 2048.
They did, didn't they?
Oh God, I don't know. Somebody threw airmen around today. I'm like, ooh, problematic. So, so the point with even bringing that up is, people talk about airspace integration and beyond visual line of sight and all the rest of this stuff. And when you start bringing this up to people, they're like, oh, well, what? What are you talking about? And so, those people that I don't want to call them Johnny come latelys or whatever else. It's like they think that they're burning up the sky and that they're doing all this hard work and the standards and everything else. And this is all like a new effort of people coming together to make this happen. And while on that with the standards, Bruce, did you get the standard for RID?
Not the official one yet, no.
Yeah, you're supposed to pay. I got to make some money on this deal.
Oh, yes. Yes.
You probably remember when I blew a cork, Gary, on the remember. So that was the other countdown that you had was the Part 107 Miss-O-Matic. How many years did that run?
Yeah. that was a long time, wasn't it? And that was a gift that kept on giving, really. Yeah,
it was. I've seen it.
I want to have. I keep thinking, and I actually, every time I think I'm going to do it, I stop myself doing it because in some ways it's pretty disrespectful. But we need a counter for manned aviation deaths going up. But yeah, that sort of thing you can't. It's a bit disrespectful. But it would just be a nonsense if we had that, and we had that counter versus commercial drone deaths or multi-rotor deaths, as Bruce says. But I keep putting it in my head we should have that sort of a counter, but then I think no.
In trouble with the
Yeah.
multi-rotor deaths, it doubles every day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you could have the one of those counters up there, the days since the last fatal accident or something for drones. But maybe the Mismatic for 2047. We're laughing now, but it's quite plausible that could be the situation.
We started laughing about it in 2009, Patrick.
And like I said, I've seen it in multiple reports. Oh, they got that Missomatic going over there at SUAS News. I think I've seen IKO stuff and NASA stuff, and I've seen it. And Blaine says, and I laugh because it got to the point where it became ridiculous because it went on for so many years. But now you remember with the standards thing. So when they were going to roll out 107 the first time. The idea is that before they even rolled the law out, you'd have to purchase all the ASTM standards to see what was in the law.
Yeah.
And I blew a cork. I remember being out in front of the Waffle Stop in South Carolina and screaming at the top of my lungs that you people have to be on drugs to think that I'm going to buy all those standards to read that. So, I know what's going to be in the law. That's crazy. It's just nuts. But anyway. History, another walk down history lane or memory lane.
Well, Squishy's saying analysing deaths and accidents is responsible. Yeah, to a degree, I do get it, and I do think it needs to start becoming the hammer that the industry starts using.
Well, the regulators plot these trends, so
true. It's just I think I find it very tricky.
Gary, did you see the link I sent you? Remember, remote ID enforcement happens in 3 days.
I was just going to.
So I went to Horizon Hobby to see what they're offering in the way of fixed wing with standard remote ID. They're selling stuff that still doesn't have remote ID built into it. You can still buy that for $249, and there's no talk of remote ID. So that will have to go off the website as of 3 days' time, I suspect. But will it? Because last time I spoke to Horizon, they said, but remote ID doesn't come into effect until September 2023, seemingly unaware of their obligations as a manufacturer of ready-to-fly drones, that they must be selling stuff with remote ID built in and that cannot be easily tampered with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the simple response to that, or a response to that, is the number of people that still haven't tweaked that RID's a thing is quite staggering. And a couple of places people have argued with me about the location of the operator being revealed and saying that's impossible, it's never going to happen, you're talking rubbish. And even in those places now, I see people going, oh no, maybe it is. They're beginning to backpedal on it. And then you say, and you can have the network of receivers. Nah, impossible. Of course it can happen. It's just, if I can think about it, then bloody hell, then there's something seriously wrong with the whole thing. And
there's people still saying, you don't have to wear a remote ID, you can just fly to Freer. And to which I say, point to one Freer. Show me where there is a Freer I can fly without remote ID. Show me one. And there aren't any, of course. So it's as I said before, it's a dog's breakfast.
Popular opinion.
There would never be a risk assessment because the result of that would not support the level of regulation we currently have. It would go against the narrative, and we can't have that.
Well, the other thing is that
the original Mavic 1, Western. So the Western Island, isn't it, Bruce?
Yeah, West Island. That's the one.
West Island.
Well, people don't seem
interesting. Did you notice with I wonder how this is going to stand up in America with the Avata, with the first drone they've rolled out with standard remote ID. The response to unplugging your phone once you've taken off is you can just carry on flying. At that stage, it's no longer standard remote ID compliant. I think that violates the FAA's determination that it must not easily be tampered with or disabled. I think the FAA, if they're going to be true to the regulation, will have to step in and say, I'm sorry, DJI, this is not acceptable behavior. You must force the drone to return to home if the phone is unplugged. What do you reckon?
Has there been a test of the behaviour? I would have assumed. Oh, that has, and it'll keep flying, will it? Even if you switch your phone off.
Yeah, it just gives remote ID error on the screen, continues flying until you disarm, and then it won't rearm until you plug your phone back in. So I think that's making it very easily tamper-proof. Or tampered. It's easy to tamper with it. Just unplug your phone.
Tamper with it, yes.
This stuff, how this stuff happens again is, it's in the vacuum, the public-private rulemaking process that I talk about. I mean, even this RID thing, you had the agent of the PRC. You had another guy who's like the Friends of the Drone Coalition or whatever he is. I don't know. And, he's filing patents while he's in it. Yes, let's do that. Oh, and if you bring that up, that Egan guy is a jerk, or if you bring up that the Chinese are, doing their thing. I was talking about how the geofencing was set up for Tiananmen Square, and then Kevin Finisterre, of course, he's really good at screenshots too. And that makes me wonder if DJI actually got PRC funding prior to 2015. It's a tangled web we weave when these communist practice.
Well, I'm not sure when at some certain point of expansion or size of business, they had to have someone in from the government. So they might not have had lots of funding. Maybe they did, but they almost certainly will have had somebody sat in there saying, "Hang on, guys, you've got to do this." And there certainly seems to be quite a mounting stack of evidence to show that they had access to the special LTE technology that only a few chosen Chinese companies had. But when all said and done, though, fair play to them. Fair play. If your government wants to support and create a really excellent products that other people pay for, to pay, basically, you and I pay for them in order to do their development, then it's a brave new world. It's a brave new world of espionage and
I agree with you. And, what's funny with that is people, if you bring that up, people say, "Oh, you're anti-Chinese," or "You're anti." I always say, if I was Chinese, I'd have the pom poms out, sis boom ba, rah rah rah. This is great. Unfortunately, I'm not. Well, or fortunately, no matter the way you like it, I'm not really fond of chicken feed, so I'm okay. But the thing with that is I keep hearing this all the time over here. People are like, "Oh, well, we're going to have a drone, and the Americans are going to make a drone, and we're going to make a comeback." So you put the story out, right, with the drone and the wrapping paper, and I tweeted out about that. I said we have a 70% chance, plus or minus, of knowing not only like what that is, but who made it. And over here in the United States, people are like, "Yeah, we're gonna have this drone, and we're gonna show DJI who's boss, and blah blah blah." And it's like,
hang on a minute.
I don't even know where.
See that ship? There goes that ship. It's sailing.
Yes, the slow boat to China. Yes, not happening. And the reason that's not happening, you're just not. You're never gonna. How are you gonna take on somebody that has 70% of the market share, Unless your drone has like some sort of Klingon cloaking device technology, or Tesla runs on beams or whatever, and it can fly indefinitely, and
Well, Skydio have done. Skydio's got to be the best blue between them and Parrot, the best blue UAS provider, and they've cottoned on to the RQ. They've got an RQ. I mean, you've got to admire them for that. And that Skydio's got to be. It is surely, yeah. It must be the largest US manufacturer now. Must be. I can't think of anyone that's going to get close. Air Environment is still making stuff they made for the Sandy Wars. It's still out of the Ben Buckle catalog.
Even that, do you remember ProSirius, Gary?
Yeah.
Okay, so that Switchblade drone that everybody's like, ranting and raving about over there in Ukraine, ProSirius lives on. And it's interesting. I read a story somewhere where they took down a helicopter with one. And it's funny. So when I worked for the Navy in 2010, they had a Switchblade-like device, and it was on the floor at the office of the guy running the whole show. And I said, "Hey, man," they go, there's what is that? He told me I was a flying munition type of thing. I said, okay, well, there's an autopilot for that. He told me I was crazy, but it was ProSeries. It's the on-point system. It would fly and terminate moving targets and also airborne targets. The guy laughed in my face. But if you look, there's actually reports out there on the internet of them doing testing in 2012, 2013 timeframe. People from ProSeries and then also AeroVironment. So while it's kind of interesting, we're talking about something that the technology is at least a decade old, if not older. But there was no market for ProSeries. I mean, besides the tracking and terminating the target thing, ProSeries had a autopilot for sale. Actually, the Sacramento Police Department had a unicorn that they rolled out in 2008. Actually, I think you talked about Dragonfly before the thing, and I think that guy went to work for him. But they had the consultant they had didn't bother to read the rules, like the same problem we were talking about here just a few minutes ago. So they rolled this program out and had egg all over their face because they didn't read the rules.
They had that Regalo sort of microlight wing thing, didn't they? The police there for a little while.
That was the LA County sheriffs. Here in Sacramento, they had a unicorn, which was a flying wing, was ProSeries, and then they had some other pusher design that they rolled out and had the sticker on there from the police department. And I used to call, or email Officer Meg every year and ask how the drone program was coming along. Sore subject with the police department.
Well, but then you see, DJI have been legend at getting police and fire departments on board to almost lobby for them. Really,
yeah, they did.
Now, they?
Do you want to talk about that? You want to? This is the seamy underbelly of the drone industry. Does anybody want to talk about that?
It's all an unseen. It's all an unseen.
First rule of Fight Club: don't talk about Fight Club.
All right. Well, so this was another thing, and this is I kind of I'm there to remind people, but when they were talking about legislation of banning DJI, and then no more federal dollars for DJI. DJI was doling out the toys. Father Christmas was riding around in a trailer full of toys, and they were giving them out to police departments and fire departments. And when the dam almost collapsed here in drought-ridden California, they were up there flying the drones and giving them away. And then there's that there's no such thing as a free dog's breakfast. And so people had to they were asking people to write letters of we can't give up the drones. They're so useful for search and rescue and fire and law enforcement, which we all knew back in, what was that, 2004, 05, whatever. So I think that was a little disingenuous that people did that. I mean, yes, the drones are useful and all the rest of that stuff. We already knew all of that, and we let the Chinese help craft the rules that we have to deal with now, and they have a monopoly. Was that a coincidence? I was trying to analyze that and think back. You remember? Am I wrong on this, or did 3D robotics go out of business just a few months after 107 rolled out?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I do. It's
kind of a shame that everybody withered on the vine and died. And then they were, how come there's no American drone companies besides the self-inflicted wound from GoPro? Man, I really screwed that one up. I should have just sounds great.
Calm as a bitch.
Check.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, the thing was doomed from the start with the GPS sat in the middle of all the speed controllers on the main board. There was many reasons why that was a terrible thing. I still see people selling them now. Must be very, very, very out of.
They're a collector's item. They'll be worth money in a few years' time.
They probably will. But then, Bruce, I know some of the topic we need to talk about is referring back to money collector's items, and it's your YouTube channel. I mean, you're really raking it in now. I see. And what did they call you? They called you a something.
Oh, boss level or something.
Oh,
the irony of it all, they send me an email saying, you're doing really well, you're fantastic, you're boss level, look at all these fantastic stats. And then they say, your estimated income for the last 28 days, $790.
Wow.
Which is good for a full-time YouTuber. Yeah, and that's before tax. That's before I have to pay my taxes. So you end up with about $600 for 4 weeks. $150 a week as a full-time YouTuber. I am just creaming it, having trouble choosing which Lamborghini to buy this year.
Well, let me ask you, Bruce. So how many subscribers do you have?
187,000.
Okay, because you watch these videos. How much does Joe Blow make on YouTube? And they're like, yeah, and then you make this and that. And, I would like to have my own YouTube channel. I just don't have the time to dedicate to
or the fortune to waste.
Here on the Drone and Sundry channel, I can tell you we're making tens of ones. We're not even making 10 ones, actually. We're not actually.
Well, and it's hard to put out good content that you can actually hear the people talking and the lighting's good and all the rest of that stuff. So my hat's off to people because I'm sure it's it's like a full-time gig. That $150.
Yeah, some people make a fortune. Some people do make a lot of money. It's a full-time gig for me, but the trouble is the model flying niche is so small and there's no niche-specific advertising that when somebody else doing videos on finance or whatever, they get like $20 per 1,000 views and I get like $1. So that's the difference. I get views and I get subscribers and all that sort of stuff, but the advertisers don't value the content I create. So I get the bottom of the barrel because it's an auction-based system. So I get the bottom of the barrel. If it wasn't for Patreon, there's no way I could continue doing what I'm doing.
The bottom of the barrel. Oh my God.
Well, look at the drone. They have Barbie ads for Barbie and kids' toys and things. That's what we're classified as toys. If you talk drones or model aircraft, your toys. We'll put the little kids' toy video ads on there. You get paid nothing. So,
well, you have to turn it up a little bit. You're gonna have to light this stuff on fire and fly it around.
But then you get demonetized for violent acts. Doing something that's dangerous. We could demonetize you for that. Anything you want to do that's interesting or fun, it will be demonetized. And remember, the last 28 days are amongst the best paying days of the year because we've got Black Friday sales, we've got the Christmas sales. So the advertising revenues are the highest they will ever be. So this is a really good month for me.
Yeah, and then there's a big slump in January.
Into some political stuff. I know that I follow a little bit of your political commentary.
Yeah, there's already lots of people doing political stuff. It's hard to make a noise in that world unless you really only got one oar on the water. I don't want to be there.
I don't know. I don't know a lot of people that aren't allowed to speak at the city council meeting.
No, that video coming. Time. You got video.
I've got video.
Allowed. Yeah. Well, did you speak though?
Yes. No, I didn't speak, but they wanted to stop me again. I've got a video where they sent me a letter saying you are forbidden, and I said I'm coming anyway. And that was interesting when I got there. You want to see what happened? I'll put that up at some stage.
Yeah, you should.
You'd never have guessed. You'd never guess what happened.
Oh, that's so funny.
So I need to work on my clickbait. But even when I get lots of views, you don't get lots of money because of the nature of the content.
Yeah, it's definitely the sun has definitely set on all of that. I think it was perhaps a few years ago it made more money, but not anymore. I'm not sure YouTube's. I don't know. It's a funny thing, and I see it's suggesting now videos from years ago from me and stuff that I've really no interest at all.
Do you know why that is?
Why?
Because so many of the good content creators are now basically saying it's not worth it, I'm not going to bother. And they are either producing crap content or not much content or no content. A lot of people have just walked out and said, there's no money in this anymore. I'm not doing it. So the good stuff is the stuff that was posted years ago. These days, there's very little good pickings on YouTube. There's not much good stuff comes out unless you're Mr. Beast or, someone who's got millions of subscribers and then your audience is mainly kids anyway.
Well, that and I've noticed, I like to watch outdoor videos, people testing gear and overlanding.
Naturist videos.
And these guys are camping in the. It started out with camping in the cold temperatures, and then camping in the snow, and then camping in the blizzard with 80 mile an hour winds, and you know, I mean, okay, my hat's off to these people, but really, when you're out there in the mountains doing that, if you get wet or whatever, your life could be in danger. So they're really like, they keep cranking it up. And it's going to be like, I can see on some of these channels, I go out and die in the wilderness during a snowstorm, so it's getting a little wacky,
Yes.
is what my thing. It's like, it's getting dangerous. Some of those people are like, oh, and I had the Garmin emergency thing and I was out in the snow in the middle of nowhere. And the guy's an outfitter and he can't even walk out, and then he's pissed off that they won't send the helicopter to get him where he's at. So, I think we'll probably see more deaths, unfortunately, as time goes on, because you just got to crank it up or show more boobs, man. That's another, the women have taken over. And that, I guess that sex still works. I don't know.
Always works. It always works.
I'll be keeping an eye on your political channel, Bruce, because I know you do have. I see the post of the hijinks. You're rolling in there for the free breakfast.
Doverans is talking about Tom Stanton's virtual swash plate, and I can't remember the name of it, but blow me down if a company hasn't started selling the same thing. They've completely lifted his idea. Let's see if I can find it. But yeah, I mean, I was disappointed that it didn't work, but at the same time, what a chap that lad is. I mean, he knows his stuff. There it is, Verticue, an AFWorks Phase 1 contract. It's Tom Stanton's swash plate. So if you look back in the SES News, you will find it there. But it is his thing. So he's a clever lad, eh? And Johnny D's for boobs. So there you go. He's for boobs. So.
Well, hey, you got 4 of them right here. Some of the biggest
that's why we're here too.
Internet.
And I like this comment: camping is just well-equipped homelessness. Yes, that is. There's in the UK, there's what they're calling wild camping. There's this sort of spike in people going wild camping on roundabouts in the centre of town or next to a better highway or outside his shop or something like that. So that is exactly that well-equipped homelessness. Tom Stanton, he is indeed an ex-drone racer. That's where I met him at Farnborough years ago when he was doing that. But he's just such a clever lad, a very, very clever young man. And I'm sure, and also that's another. RC flight test is also.
So do you think we're going to see more people like this with the hobby being locked up tight with regulation, or they're just going to go straight to model trains?
I don't think. I don't think. I think it's very unlikely that the youngsters like that are gonna come through in the next 10 years. Exactly because of that, because they're not going to be getting the exposure to the hobby and mucking about at a very young age, and it's going to be a direct consequence of these ridiculous regulations. It's going to stop youngsters like that. Luckily, they're through. But there we are.
I know what to get Mark for Christmas: a lump of coal.
Yeah, well, we used to. We over here at the Railroad Museum. They used to have a lump of coal for the old steam engines, but they've outlawed coal in California. So, no more lumps of coal. That joke's dead. I wanted to ask you, Gary, as a STEM teacher, do you see a STEM job pipeline in your country? Besides code.
No, but that's different to if you want to keep power stations going, but no, because there's not an investment in technology. There's not an investment in moving forward in universities and stuff like that. Yeah, so yes, my hopeful self said, loads of opportunity. But
thank goodness we still have arts and drama degrees.
I noticed that's the deal here. It's all like humanities, and which is, it's not. I'm not knocking humanities. It's great. I love that stuff, but it's hard to plug your, appliances into that. And that's fine. But I think we're finally starting to wake up here in the United States. Everybody, oh, we're giving away STEM grants for $1,000. And people are starting to realize you can't even buy a Chinese drone kit for $1,000.
Yeah. You've got to manage your expectation and move it towards the reality. So we're a farming community where I am, and the reality is a lot of the tractors are becoming autonomous and having the gear and having the sensors. So you've got to start to say to the children, well, this is what Dad's using, and this is why he's using it, and get that into the loop. The reality of technology that they'll see. I think if you go down to a kit for this or a kit for a robot or this or that or the other, you get trapped into those just like drone companies get trapped into those supply chains, and you become platform dependent, and it costs schools an absolute fortune.
Once Elon Musk's robots get out there, we'll all be freedom camping because we won't be able to afford a thing. We'll have no jobs.
Well, the other thing that I noticed, it's funny you say you're in a, farming community. So, I did help the local high school out with the first robotics, and it got to the point where I couldn't have the time to really help the kids. But, they're up against the Space Cookies, which are the local, girls' school close to NASA Ames. And, I'm asking the 13-year-old girl, I'm like, did you TIG weld this yourself? Because that's a hell of a bead you got there. I mean, you got a future in the automotive or whatever industry, where these kids are using old plywood with the jigsaw, cutting stuff out. I mean, it's just like it's a night and day difference. Who's got money, engineering prowess, and all the rest of that. But the $1,000, we're gonna, the kids are gonna put this together, and then they're gonna put $1,000 kit together between 5 people, and they're gonna be like engineers. Not happening, and it's kind of sad. But I think people are waking up that really want to. What do you got there, Gary? We're gonna
this is so I'm just turning this into like a go at that delivery thing. But Lego have just pulled out. They've just pulled out and stopped selling. They're pulling out the Mindstorms range, and really? That's a bit of a clue. If they're pulling out, then that's a bit of a clue.
And that's why Mark has a model train, so he can claim to be an engineer.
Absolutely. But
I got the boot.
If you've got got to have the hat and everything, haven't you? But it's the technology. It's very tricky because, of course, if you have a curriculum, you can't keep up, because you write your curriculum and 1 year later it's completely out of date, really, from the latest stuff. So it's more about critical thinking and building and breaking stuff. I think that's where my teacher, let's break stuff.
Especially
that's
breaking.
where mine is. Breaking,
Well, the only way to learn how something works is to actually break it. Because it's like my parents. My parents aren't very IT capable, if you like. So my mum's got a Mac. It's an iMac, and she's worried about clicking on something. And I just say to her, I says, click on it, break it, learn how it works. Because by only doing something wrong, can you learn that you're doing something right, and you won't do
Story
it
of
again.
my life.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't tell her to go on certain websites or whatever, but just using it for photos. How do I get my photos onto the computer? It's basic to all of us, but for someone that's not got a clue, I just say to her, just break it. You know what I mean? Just try it. Just the worst you can do, I says, is it just doesn't do what you want it to. Really,
I have visions of Mark coming in and his parents' computer being a pile of rubble.
I noticed the same thing with the curriculum. I thought it changed by the week, or even every other week, and people were like, "Oh, well, just can't." It's like it takes a lot of extra effort and whatever else. It's not like classic Greek philosophy or something. And it requires, if you're going to teach a good class, it really requires a teacher who's got passion for technology.
One of the problems is also is like, because technology changes so quickly, if you go airworthiness for drones, what will happen is you build design drone, get it made airworthy. By the time that's happened, it's already out of date. The aircraft is literally out of date within 6 months or less, because technology, of course, is just jumping ahead. So you've got this beautiful new airframe. We've got it certified. Oh crap! We've got to get the new one certified now because that one's no good anymore.
That's
tell
a
you
good
what,
news
really
story.
That's never been a problem with manned aviation. It moves at such a slow pace that certifications last for centuries.
That's the problem. Everyone expects, us to move at the same speed as manned aviation. That would be incorrect. We're moving 10 times quicker. They cannot keep up with us, nor can the regulators, as we quite clearly know. The regulators can't keep up. The cat's enjoying.
He's just, every time I throw him down, he jumps right back up.
I'm interested to hear about. Sorry, Doverens is talking about VEX. I use the VEX simulators, which are very good, and I am interested, funny enough, in VEX. No, this is going to turn into I know exactly what he's talking about here. I know, but
VEX, I love the Avata rub.
All the exactly all said and done though with Lego VEX, whatever it is, you've got to have enough of them in the classroom, and you've got to be given enough time to work with them. And really, there's only a handful of children that are that interested in it, really. Anyway, so we do things like semaphore to talk about coding and things like that. Go out and look at the ground and look at the land and consider things. The actual what is popular, the idea of coding and robotics that is popular, that people try and sell you stuff, is tosh. At the minute,
Johnny D. To Johnny D. Me too.
Yes. But the people are trying to sell us every week. Somebody tries to sell us VR headsets for education. It's like, why? How's that going to work? Well, no, it's a good idea. Let them come to school and put a headset on them, and then they've gone. They've gone for the day, then, haven't they?
It wasn't a guy called Zuckerberg, was it?
Yeah, probably. But I mean, just imagine the money you'd need to actually run that.
Well, the problem is, of course, you don't want to give them the VR headset. You want to teach them how to program the VR headset or the world that you step into with the headset on. You don't want to give them the headset as such. It's about creating the world that you're going to use the headset to access. That's what you need to. That's what should be taught. That's where the headsets are relevant. To be fair, it's about, look, this is what's coming, kind of thing. This is the kind of world, and this is how it's built, kind of thing.
It's hard to stay on top of that, and I'd like to bring it back, because there is the one news thing was that Matternet actually not only got a TC but also a PC. They got a production certificate, which is for the industry is very exciting. But that goes right back to, now we know that this is a model you can't make money on. I mean, they probably contest that and say, no, we're making money because we have high value cargo, which is organs or whatever. But they did. I mean, if people remember, and I'm sure you remember, Gary, because we covered it, but they crashed in a lake, and that turned into
yes.
The insurance company had to send divers out there with boats because it was an environmental hazard and blah blah blah. And it's kind of hard to believe that they got there, but hats off and kudos. It's been years, 10 years or whatever. But okay, so you have this model, you're carrying something, you've invested all of this time and money into a production certificate, and I don't want to say the next zip line comes along, because that doesn't make money either, but okay, whatever. There's the Joe Blow drone company comes along, and they really figure out, hey man, this is kind of like the Ukrainian kids dropping, they've got like a revolver or a hopper that drops multiple packages, and this drone can make multiple deliveries in one sortie. So your model is obsolete now, but all of the money and the time that you spent on that production certificate, you will not recoup. And I think that people don't understand that about aviation. It's like how we have the Cessna 172 and the 182 and the aircraft that we do have, they get type certified. That's one process. and then they get their production certificate, and then they can actually make them and bring them out. The other thing with drones is, what does the production certificate or the type certification get you? You don't have onboard detect and avoid. Is your all your software, is it certified? I would assume that you have some DO variant of certification on that, which is, I can't even, what was it, $100 a line of code or something for certification?
Mm.
So the costs are really high. And I don't know, do you guys think we've hit peak drone? I mean, I think if you look at the numbers, well, I mean, even in design, I mean, everybody goes after the DJI Air 3s, what the small stuff that's $750. I mean, is that it? Did we, hit the, I don't know.
Yes. I think. Well, we're going to just the changes now are really, really quite small, aren't they? There's no huge leaps anymore. Well, but now we can. Well, actually, we will have one soon. We'll have the fusion powered drones. They'll be arriving very, very soon. So that'll be the next big leap. That actually will point towards electric everything. If that really is a thing, then electric everything will make a lot.
Back ordered
sense.
for 20 years, though.
Yes.
You pre-order now for 20 years' time.
Yeah,
well,
but
I thought the whole deal was, isn't it really
interested sorry, Patrick. Sorry, I was actually interested in Bruce's take on that news today.
Yes, it's not unexpected, but it's also a little bit deceptive because they say we've got over unity energy production. We produce 30 joules more than we put in, and they put in 100 and so many megajoules. But what they fail to state is the energy input, I think, was measured in terms of the power of the laser beams, right?
Yeah.
But the laser is not a 100% efficient thing. So the amount of electrical energy was significantly more than the total they recovered. The amount of laser energy, they got more than that coming out. But of course, they didn't have 100% efficiency. So they're still not really at that over unity stages based on the information I read today. So, and then remember, this is inertial confinement. So that burst of fusion lasted for a tiny, tiny fraction of a second. So having something that produces enough power to boil a kettle with all that energy going in, and having it operate for a fraction of a second is a long way from having a fusion generator plugged into the national grid or in your home.
Candles at 30
or 50
hey, Gary, you've earned some money, mate. Look,
I've earned
did
some
you
money.
see that?
Thanks, I Spike.
You've earned some money.
Thanks,
you've doubled your
Thanks
annual
so
earnings, mate.
Yes.
New box of candles for Gary.
Oh yeah. Oh, I've got cable.
I'm surprised no one's asked why has no one asked that new AI system how to do fusion energy? Surely that will know how to do it. That new AI API thing, whatever, that writes
the AIAIO, McDonald.
What happened to blockchain?
Ask that'll know.
I'm still waiting for the blockchain thing. Remember how that was like unhackable? That's not going to happen. That crocodile of Wall Street.
Still being touted for UTMs. UTM people are still saying it's what you should do. You need to attach some blockchain to ADSB, and everything's going to be okay. That's still out there.
So we'll have our models will have all these GPUs burning power just to create the blockchain for the. Yeah, that's going to work.
Yeah, it's still out there as a concept. In fact, I saw it in a slide pack just last week from a future flight thing. So that is still out there. I'm astounded that things can live on so long. And one of the great things. Sorry.
In other news, Raspberry Pis should be available again sometime next year.
They should, and they should be.
Don't try and get the Jetson Nano because you can't. In other news.
No, supply chain thing's still a big issue, isn't it? And it's going to be for another couple of years, I think, isn't it? It's not going away soon.
It's interesting to see it here in the United States. You go to the, I never thought this would happen, but you go to the grocery store and there's not stuff there, which is bizarre for the United States because we're all a little large over here. We're used to lots of freedom of choice. And it kind of reminds me of the old Eastern Bloc days. There'd be the one dented can standing and the one leaning on its side, or whatever. And it was quaint.
Where the government spied on everybody. And
I know
back
it
in
was
the
just
old
really
days.
dystopian. I don't. Yeah, it's a God. That's an even the other deal with the technology. I mean, it's hard. It's a hard. In the back of your mind, you're thinking, all of this data. People are like, there's no way they're looking at all this data. There's no way that the drones would spy. There's no way that the phones would spy, or this would spy, or that would spy, or what. Nah. It's looking like all that tinfoil, the hats. You might want to unfurl those and put them back in the drawer because it was happening. I don't know.
Very much. Very much. Very, very. Oh. Excuse me.
It's probably the meter reader come to read his candles.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad he's making enough. He can buy a new box of candles. Makes me feel good.
It's good as if he could put them in the middle of the screen, they'll be scented candles too.
That's funny. So even the Raspberry Pi thing. So yeah, I mean that's the other thing with the STEM is getting the parts and pieces. And
Yeah.
I talk to people all the time. They're like, "Oh, I want to start this STEM program," and I'm like, "What do you think it's going to cost?" "Oh, I don't know." "Did you write a one-page treatment?" "No." "Did you write a syllabus out? But just even an outline?" "No. I just have this idea that I'm going to teach kids how to fly drones."
Stop talking about him, he's back now.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what that was. Something big just hit the side of the house. I don't know. Probably a porcupine. Something just occurred. But anyway, there was an occurrence. Bloody things. So you keep the ladders on the side of the house and aluminium ladders. I've got several aluminium ladders because I'm a bit of an aluminium ladder freak now. And quite often you hear them just walking up as they go past the aluminium ladders in the evening.
So hit the side of the house. Porcupines playing with trebuchets. That's got to be dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, that's what I'm hoping to train them to be able to do. Exactly. Use
How
these
big do
ladders to make some mistakes.
How big are these porcupines that come by the house to use your ladder?
Probably well, bigger than. Well, they're like the size of a collie dog. The actual.
Really?
The beast itself, but the spikes, of course, are huge.
Yeah.
So they're enormous.
I've got no time. No time for porcupines. They're just a bunch of pricks.
They are. The dogs had one cornered at the base of a tree the other day, and I didn't realise they were going and going and going. And I walked around. I just come around with the torch, and there's a bloody great thing was right there. I was, oh Christ! So they're a good sized porcupine. The garden. They're big things. They're not. But the actual animal itself is quite small. But you add the spikes in, and they're quite big.
That's what I like about this country. There's nothing really dangerous out there apart from the odd politician or civil servant. The rest of the country is pretty damn benign.
Yeah. No, the snakes are more dangerous than porcupines. It's just a pain because the dogs go nuts and hit the doors and they're banging into the ladders and it's all good fun. It's all good fun. Anyway, this is definitely talking.
It's nice being at the top of the food chain, eh?
Yeah, I suppose so. But anyway, I think I don't know. Have we? I think we've dropped down into talking nonsense and rubbish, haven't we? So we should probably go and see what the rest of the week brings in this Christmas week, where really drone sales we're into Christmas weeks, aren't they? Drone sales aren't happening. As Patrick mentioned, peak Christmas drone is gone as well. It's not a thing anymore, is it? And especially as bringing it all the way back around to the EASA thing. If parents have to look at the requirements for having that drone, if they stop for just a moment, pretty much everywhere in the world, it's just a pain now. Why would you do it? Why would you do it? Just buy another computer game, crack on.
Yeah, or a gun.
Didn't somebody? Or a gun? Didn't somebody say that Sega's got like an FPV game?
Oh, really?
One of them, I believe, has got there's some FPV game. So, you don't have to go outside. You don't have to crash. Things like that. It's really too bad. I had a feeling that they were going to screw this up. And unfortunately, just going for the short victories with regulation That's a problem. I've noticed that the AOPA has actually been working on, which is the Airplane Owners and Pilots Association here in the United States, been working on the FAA to kind of relax and roll back some of their rules. One of them is registration. You remember, Gary, years ago when like 90,000 aircraft went missing?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes. Yes.
Because they were actually monkeying with the safety numbers, which was funny, is because they were using the GATA survey and then multiplying the numbers of flight hours in that by 10 years of registration records, and it made the NASA look really safe for GA. And then they looked around and they were like, oh wow, 90,000 aircraft are missing, so now it's been a few years, they're going to relax the registration numbers, and I have a feeling that that's going to happen again, where the safety of the NASA is going to get safer because the numbers have been going in the wrong direction.
Years have gone. And Brad is interesting. He's reminded me. Somebody did ask me today on the link to the inn, if you had £200, kids, to spend on buying a multi-rotor for a child for Christmas, what would you buy? That was his question to me. I said a Tello's quite a good idea, about $99, 100 and a bit quid. Any other ideas? So if £200 is the amount of money, what we're going to buy this child for Christmas?
Those EASA, the ones that they keep repackaging as the best thing since sliced bread, and a couple of blokes in a cupboard somewhere invented it and have saved the national economy. The actual EASA version of that is not a bad little drone for the money. It's quite cheap, and it's what you expect for a drone that price.
EASA, I'm going to have a look at that right now.
That might be. Is that what he's talking about?
That's sort of a thing. Yeah,
that's probably what he's talking about. It's just that little thing, and it's been marketed under a whole lot of brands. But if you get it from like Banggood directly, or from and the EASA brand, it's not being oversold. It's basically a little drone uses just phone and a Wi-Fi.
Well, that's a helicopter, isn't it? That the flybarless scale RC
is
helicopter,
okay.
$80. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No.
I don't
I'm
know.
trying to find. Yeah. I can't find it now, but you can put a pinned comment.
Tyro 79. Yeah, it's all about expectations, isn't it?
Yes. Expect nothing and not be disappointed.
Yeah. Kids loved it. Yeah, I quite fancy one of those for myself.
It's the big Christmas Drone and Sundry stream next week, isn't it? The big one with all the free food and stuff laid on.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
Bring your own candle, though, is it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
the dish of the day: porcupine steak.
Delicious.
Well, people do. The issue with starting to is that you have to buy a brand new transmitter for at least 170.
No, the cheap ones use your smartphone, use your cell phone. The cheap ones, or they might come with a little crappy little transmitter, and you just put your phone in. It uses Wi-Fi for the video. They're really basic stuff. It's good for kids because it's not a big investment. So when they get it stuck in the neighbour's tree, you don't cry too hard.
EASA is coming up a lot, so I'll have a look at EASA's. Yeah. Oh, Mark's gone. Cheerio, Mark.
Mark's gone.
I'll have a look at EASA's. I'll have a look at their products and see what I think. And Mark going, that's a good prompt. So with that, dear viewer, wherever you might be, look, I'm halfway across the screen now. There we are. Wherever you might be in the world. Yeah. We'll see you again for the big one next week. As
indubitably, where we'll have all our predictions for the new year. We'll be working on predictions for the new year, for the New Year's one.
New Year's 21st, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it will be.
It's not far away. Another week, and we'll be doing the New Year's Eve one. So.
BV loss is the thing of the future.
That's here now. Remote ID's here. I just fly BV loss because remote ID allowed that, didn't it?
Well, we'll be on the other side of RID being starting to be implied. Oh, and I wonder. Well, I suppose we're going to see if next week we're going to see if somebody is singled out to be the first person that's not RID compliant.
Well, it's not the person; it's the manufacturer. You can still fly without RID, but the manufacturer has to be supplying, if it's ready to fly, RID-ready equipment. So you can be flying something without RID, and that doesn't matter until next year. But if the manufacturer has failed in their obligations to fit standard remote ID, they're the ones that are going to be prosecuted. So it'll be interesting to see whether DJI gets whacked around the head with a clue stick for enabling such easy disabling of the remote ID system.
We shall
I think it's all going to work out swimmingly.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Once we get enough of these spoof drones up there.
Absolutely. All right, let's go.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, see you next week, 2100 GMT. Thanks for being here. We'll see you then. If we don't see you, have a lovely Christmas. Cheers for now. Bye-bye. There's one button and there's the second button.